Hey guys, Mantis here, back with another video. So today we're going to be talking about the top 10 mistakes that I see in the mantis hobby. So I do see a lot of new keepers make these mistakes, and it's always good to learn from them. These are mistakes that I have made myself, so I really like to just pass on the knowledge to everyone and any new keepers that are interested in keeping mantises. So the first mistake that I see is keepers getting too large of an enclosure. So I do see a lot of keepers keeping mantises in really large enclosures when they are L2 nymphs, and those type of mantises, they're usually about this size. They're just so small, and it's great that you guys are trying to keep them in really large enclosures and you're trying to make a great home for them, but sometimes it's detrimental for the mantis. It's just harder to keep humidity up. It is harder to find your mantis, harder for your mantis to find food. It's just a lot easier just to clean them and just make sure that everything's going great in a small 32-ounce cup, such as this one. Once they start getting a little bit bigger, you can definitely move them onto a bigger enclosure and you can decorate it however you like. Number 9 is buying crickets as feeders. So it's not that crickets are bad for mantises, it's just that a lot of places don't know how to keep crickets. So you do see a lot of places keeping them and they're pretty dirty. If you're gonna get crickets, I suggest really inspecting the crickets and just make sure that they have all their legs intact, that they don't smell bad. That's like usually the first thing you notice is the smell. When you go into a reptile shop, it's really gross. And if you do get crickets, just make sure you keep them, you try and keep them pretty healthy. It's it goes downhill pretty fast, so it's just not my ideal feeder. I just see a lot of deaths from feeding crickets just because the crickets are kept in a really gross environment, and the crickets will be sick, and then that goes onto your mantis, and then your mantis gets sick and then it dies. So I just prefer to stay away from crickets in general. So just make sure you get clean feeders. Number 8 is keeping your mantis in a small glass enclosure. So I do see this a lot. A lot of people want to keep their mantis in a mason jar because it looks cute, and the mason jars do look really cute. I'll show you guys one here. So I do see a lot of homes in these type of enclosures, but this isn't my favorite just because you can't really modify a glass enclosure. It's really small, and if the sun hits it, it gets really hot really fast. The mantises can't grip onto glass, so your mantises, you'll see them trying to crawl in there and they just keep slipping off and falling. So this isn't my ideal one. I usually just prefer to stick with plastic enclosures. Like I said, I do prefer my 32-ounce deli cups to begin with, and then you move on to another enclosure, to a bigger enclosure that you can modify later. Number 7 is not keeping your feeders in stock. So I do often see a lot of keepers, they're starting to frantically look for feeders because they run out, such as fruit flies, and fruit flies are super easy to keep going in a culture, and they're really easy to find at first, and you can make one culture could last you forever. Fruit flies are very easy to keep in stock. So I do have a video on how to make your own fruit fly cultures. So if you guys want to take a look, I'll link it at the very end. Fruit flies are definitely something that's the easiest to keep in stock. Something such as cockroaches, it takes a little bit longer just because they take a while to mature and to breed and to start hatching new babies. But fruit flies are definitely super easy to keep going forever, and it's just something that I always keep in stock no matter what. Number 6 is too much or too little humidity. So what I do see a lot is a lot of mantis keepers end up having mold issues because they are overspraying or they keep their substrate too moist. So a lot of people use a cocoa fiber such as this, and then they really dampen it up to keep the humidity up, which is fine for higher humidity species. It's just, it can be a problem if there's not enough ventilation for that humidity. It's gonna get gross in there. And then once you start seeing mold, you do have to clean out that enclosure immediately, just because mold can kill your mantis, which is a mistake that I have done for my very first mantis. I did accidentally kill it by having the humidity up too high. So that's something that you really want to watch out for. Another one is too little humidity, so you're not spraying your mantis enough. That's something that I don't see a lot though. I do prefer to keep my mantises on the drier side, so usually I just keep a paper towel for them and just spray them once or twice a day. And I usually do have holes for ventilation, so you can see there's a hole here and a hole here. Switch over to a paper towel and just spray them once or twice a day. Number 5 is keeping mantises together. So I see a lot of keepers trying to keep communal species together, such as ghost mantises. Although they can live communally, there is always that chance of cannibalism. So I prefer to not keep them together just to avoid that. If you do keep them together, you eventually will have a death. There will always be that one rogue mantis that will immediately attack another mantis, and then you'll have one less mantis or two less mantises. So personally, for me, I prefer to just keep them separated just to avoid any of that, unless you're very experienced. But this is just something that I see a lot of new keepers asking if they can keep their mantises communally, especially ghost mantises. All right, number 4 is buying too many mantises at once. So something that I always see is, well, that's something that I experienced myself, and I see a lot of people, is people buy a lot of mantises at once. And although that's totally fine, just buying more than maybe 10, it's gonna get overwhelming. Your mantis will start growing, it'll start needing more food. They do need to be cleaned, they need to be fed, you need to be sprayed every day, and then if you breed them, then you're gonna have 200 babies. So it's very easy to get overwhelmed very, very fast. So I suggest just keeping maybe like 5 or so, just to see if you like it and make sure you can handle that. I have 11 mantises right now, and they keep me pretty busy. 11 mantises is a pretty good number for me. I'll probably get more mantises in the future, but this is okay for me for now. I used to have over 100 plus, and it became very overwhelming for me. So, and it kind of started not becoming fun anymore. So just make sure, mantises are super awesome and I love them, but it can get overwhelming very fast. Number 3 is handling a mantis in pre-molt. So this is something that I see a lot. So a lot of keepers start getting worried because their mantis is not moving, and it's looking sickly, or it looks like it's gonna die, or it just doesn't look right. It doesn't want to eat. So I do often see people handling their mantis when they shouldn't be handling it, and that can be an issue just because it can potentially kill the mantis if you're not careful. So I do have a video in my YouTube channel that you guys can look for it, how to tell if your mantis is gonna molt, and it just, I just kind of go over everything that you need to, and any signs that you need to look for and everything, so you don't actually disturb your mantis while it's potentially molting. Again, that's something that I have done myself. I did that with my second mantis. She was a fairly large mantis. She was a Hirodula, and she was a subadult, and I've never seen it before, and I didn't, it's something that I had, I was worried. I started grabbing her. I was contacting the breeder, like, what's wrong with my mantis? She's not moving, she's not eating, she's not doing anything. And luckily for me, it worked out fine. I put her back. The next day, she was a really pretty adult. So I was super lucky there. If I had let her on the ground or something like that, she probably would have passed away. Yeah, try not to handle your mantis if it is showing signs of pre-molt. Number 2 is not researching the species. I have been seeing a lot of people wanting to get advanced species of mantises, such as Mantis or orchid mantises or Toxidera. Is that how you say it? Toxidera. And there's so many mantises that require so many special requirements that it's crazy. And I do see a lot of keepers wanting to immediately rush to getting an advanced species, which can be a problem because the first mantis you're gonna get very attached to. It's gonna be your pet, and if you don't do things right, it's gonna die. And it's just better to have a good experience with your first mantis and get something that's gonna be fairly easy to handle and to keep alive. So that's something that I usually see, is people not researching the type of mantis that they want and then accidentally killing it. My number 1 pick is just to get a giant Asian mantis as a beginner species. There's several other mantises. I'll make a video on which species I recommend as a good beginner species, so you guys can have different options. Ask the breeder, make sure that it's something that you're going to be able to handle, especially if it's going to be your first mantis. You can move on to a little bit more difficult mantises if you've had experience with inverts, or you've kept reptiles before, so you know how to keep different humidity levels and everything. My number 1 what mistake that I see in the mantis hobby which is one that I made as well, is not researching the breeder. So there are so many breeders, so many people selling mantises online, and some of them aren't the best to buy from. And a lot of the ones that you see pop up on Google when you first search it look very legitimate, and they look like professional sites, and those probably aren't the best ones. That was my number one mistake that I made, and I really regretted it. And when I received my package with my dead bugs in it, it really put me off, and I almost gave up on the hobby, and you know, it wasn't a very pleasant experience. And I had a really bad experience trying to get to the breeder because obviously he wasn't a good person, and I didn't get a refund or anything, and I ended up with just a box full of dead mantises. So that's my number one. I see it all the time. People just impulse buy. They Google. They really want like an orchid mantis, or they want, you know, an Eidolo mantis, and then they go online, they click it, and they never see it, or when they receive it, it's dead. Do your research on that. Join some mantis keeper sites. Join the Mantid forum, and really do your research on the breeder. There's so many good breeders that don't even have a website that you can find very easily on the Mantid forum or on Mantis Keeper sites. And there's also websites that you can look and check the reviews for the bad breeders. The breeder that I had dealt with, I think he's been banned. I haven't heard of him or seen him in a while, or seen his name in a while, so hopefully he's gone. If you have a rough start such as that, it's gonna be sad, especially since shipping is so expensive and mantises are so expensive. You know, you're gonna be out maybe $50-$60 if you do make a mistake like the one that I made. I'm gonna try and make a video on which breeders I recommend, because I have bought several mantises from lots of different breeders now. I know my breeders, and I know who to choose, I know who to look for, and it doesn't necessarily have to come from a website. So that's definitely not my number one. Let me know if you guys have any other suggestions, any other tips for new keepers that you might think of. And yeah, this is my first video, kind of showing myself, so hello. But yeah, hopefully this video was helpful for you guys. So it's something I'm really passionate about, and I really want people to have fun, enjoy it. It's not supposed to be something that you should be worrying about scammers or bad people, but unfortunately those people do exist, and they will take advantage of you, and they will take your money, and it will ruin your experience. So if you guys like this video, please hit the like button. If you guys want to see any more mantis related content, please subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye. I show my mantis here. She's been crawling around. I don't know if you guys can see her. There she is. Alright, I kind of want to show you guys my shirt too. This is my violin shirt. Kind of had it for a while. I designed it myself. Alright guys, see you later. Bye.